Hello, everyone. This is Mrs. Thompson. I am so excited you are all here today. If you can hear me just fine, will you please give me a smiley face so I know that I'm coming through loud and clear? Excellent. Thank you, Melissa. Okay, you guys. Well, I would like to go ahead and just kind of see who's all here, where we're at, and I want to welcome you all to our session today. And I'd like you to know where I'm at. I'm over here in Idaho, and if you look here on the top or the bottom right-hand side, I'm down here in a little town called Pingree, Idaho. My husband is a spud farmer. Yep, we grow potatoes and beets, and we have a little bit of cattle and grain, and it's a pretty nice fall day here. So I would like to see where you guys are at. If you would go ahead and show me with your pen tools. You can click on your pen tools. It's over here on the left-hand side of your screen, and it looks like this right here. It's the second little button down. You can click on that, and then hold your mouse over the top of the state that you're at, if you would share with me. Excellent. We've got a lot of people on the East Coast. Excellent, you guys. Well, I also want to introduce Heather McKenna. She is the other teacher that's working with me, and she lives in the Boise area near where our capital is. And so Mrs. McKenna will be responding to your comments and your questions in the chat box for me. And so if there's anything that you need me to stop for or review, she can also kind of bring that to my attention as we're going. So I want to recognize her and thank her for being here today. All right. So sometimes I'll have parents ask me after a session is over, hey, I really want to print that whiteboard, and I would like to have all the notes that you had on the screen. And so the way that you can do that is you can go up to the top left-hand side of your screen where it says File, scroll down, or go ahead and bring your mouse down and click on the word Print, and then you can click the word Whiteboard. By doing that, you can go ahead and print the entire whiteboard or a certain page if you want. And then that way you have some notes for afterwards if you want to use those or not. So that's just kind of an FYI. All right, everyone. So we're going to talk about today some different objectives that I want to make sure that we do cover in our session today. First off, we're going to understand how to motivate gifted students through different work. Not more work, but different work. That's really an important key there. We're going to understand the differences between acceleration, compacting, and enrichment. And we're going to discover strategies to prevent underachievement. So in doing that, actually I want to share with you a quick video link before we go on to that next slide. And this is, I thought, a pretty good little video that talks a little bit about motivation and how it affects your brain. And that's why we're all here today, right, is to understand how to motivate these kids. Not only that, but how to school your students through the online school. And so these things are going to be able to help you with that. So I'm going to load this presentation for you real quickly. If it doesn't load automatically on your screen, I'll put it into the chat box and you can click on it there. When you're finished with it, please give me a green check mark, which is located over here on the left-hand side of your screen in the participants box. That way I'll know that it's safe to go ahead and continue moving on with the majority is finished with the video clip. All right, here you go. Okay, great. It looks like most of you finished the clip. I thought that was kind of interesting because in looking at that and how that relates to what we are doing here with your students is that I thought it was interesting how they mentioned that motivation is cognitively based by our goals, our aspirations, and outcomes we expect. So by helping your students learn to set goals and achieving these goals, you really are helping them much more than just having them have some sort of an instant gratification and getting done with what you want them to finish up, okay? Instead, what's happening is you're leading them down the path to become a responsible adult. So, I'll give you a second to read this. All right, now I actually don't recommend a three-pronged approach, okay? But I thought this was kind of funny because don't we all feel like that sometimes? Do it because I said so, right? And parents of gifted children are often surprised when their children underachieve in school. Learning disabilities in gifted children can sometimes lead to underachievement. But it's often just a lack of motivation. Motivating some gifted children can be difficult. Neither rewards nor punishment seem to work. So what can parents do to motivate these kids? Remember, it's part of our wiring to want to belong. That's what the video clip just said, right? And you are the most influential teacher in your child's life. They want to please you. This is part of their wiring. So let's talk about how we're going to do that. All right? Motivation. Sometimes parents of gifted children forget how important motivational strategies are. They have a child who speaks like an adult, but the child is in an 8-year-old body. This is called asynchronous development. I try to remind the parents that I work with that even though their child seems so much older and they seem like they are this little lawyer and they can debate with you on every single thing, it's important to still provide motivational strategies for this child. So I'm going to share with you a file transfer right now. And in this file transfer, it has some fun ways to motivate your kids. So let me send this through. And it has a whole list of ideas that I'm just going to mention one of them here in just a second that I think that you would find useful. Okay, so just go ahead and click Save when that comes across to your screen, and save it somewhere that you'll easily be able to find it later on, maybe on your desktop or something, okay? So it's important to use short-term goals and rewards. Depending upon the age of the student, short-term rewards may be as short as an hour for possibly a kindergartner finishing a hated math assignment, all right? Or maybe it's a week for an 8th grade student lacking motivation to clean his room. Short-term goals need to be within a time period that's not so far off that the student forgets about what they're working towards. And that's huge. A lot of times I'll have parents tell me, well, they aren't working towards it. It's not a big deal to them. But their goal, especially maybe for a little first grader, the parent has put the short-term reward either at the end of the day or 3 days later or the end of the week. And that's so far off for that little first grader's mind or body, and that for them that it seems almost unattainable and they don't care anymore. So in saying this, your long-term rewards should be a reasonable amount of time as well. Unmotivated gifted children generally don't focus on anything but the present. 2 weeks into the future is even hard for some of them to imagine, as well as us as adults, so be sure to accommodate your short-term goals to a reasonable time period. Okay, for an example, I have a 3rd grade daughter that does not like to do her daily chores at all. I've provided a job chart for her that rewards her short-term goals of a variety of tasks immediately. So when she's finished taking out the trash, she's able to put a red check mark next to that chore being completed on the job chart. This is her short-term reward, was being able to mark that off, as well as this helps her with her organizational skills. She can then put 1 piece of popcorn into a jar. Okay, that's my short-term reward. She's able to finish something as she completed that task. As you see down here, she's put 1 popcorn into the jar. Then When she's finished dusting the family room, she gets to put another red check mark next to the task on the chart and then another piece of popcorn into the jar. You don't necessarily have to have both of those, the chart and the popcorn each time, but to me I liked it because, like I said, it helps her with those organizational skills. Now, I will have marked a red line on an empty jar about 1/4 of the way up, and once the popcorn pieces reach the marked line, she earns a popcorn movie party. This will take her all week long to reach that line. So I would kind of prefigure that out. And my short-term reward is the popcorn pieces into the jar, and the long-term reward is the line that takes about a week to reach. Now, in choosing rewards, you need to make sure you involve your student in the choices, or else they won't really care to work towards that prize. It's got to be within reason of what your reason, what you will allow them to be able to receive for that reward. But it doesn't always have to be candy or something you buy. It could be 15 minutes extra for recess, or being able to spend longer time reading your favorite book, or maybe it is watching a movie and having a popcorn party, or maybe it is a dollar store item that you went to the store and got 20 little dollar store items and put them in a box that they got to choose from. Whatever you want to make your short-term reward and your goals, your long-term rewards are, that is up to you. But the document I just sent you gives you a ton of different ideas and to switch it up. I'll sometimes have parents say to me that they want their child to work towards their goals and have the satisfaction that the job is complete as their reward. And I always have to remind them that their kids are still kids. Usually that intrinsic motivation comes with maturity and with age. But while they're young, they are still kids, and motivational strategies are a huge part of them learning how to set goals in life. And like I said, it's important to be able to switch those things up, because one motivational strategy is not going to work forever. It may get boring after a while, so choose a different one and switch it up. Okay, a series of smaller tests. So what's going on? Sometimes a student gets overwhelmed by a large task. It's not that the task is difficult, but the student may not be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So rather than begin the task, a student will give up before he or she even begins. Help your child see the task as a series of smaller tasks. Make each small task a goal and try setting a reward for that goal. Sometimes rewards won't be necessary once a student is able to see the task as a manageable one. And that's huge. Maybe you have this huge homework assignment, and maybe you want to break it up, that we finish the first 10 problems and we continue to work on and do the second part of the goal to the third part of the goal, or whatever that is. So yes, you can use playing Minecraft as a reward, Patrina. That's a great idea. Yeah. And let's see, you didn't get the file transfer. Sure, Dela. Dela, yeah, we'll send that to you here in just a minute. I'll go ahead and maybe I'll have Heather go ahead and send that through. Heather, if you can transfer that through to her. Or else at the end of the session too, I'll be sending out all the file shares also. So, okay, so that's an important thing to do. Be able to break up your tasks into smaller tasks. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is praise, rewards and praise, okay? Gifted kids sometimes have trouble connecting personal effort to achievement, and much of what they do and learn come easily to them, so they can achieve with little effort. To help a child succeed, you need to praise efforts at success and make that praise specific. So for example, instead of saying, "Oh my goodness, that is the best drawing I've ever seen. That is so great, that is amazing." It's better, and that kid might be saying, "Really? Because I didn't try that hard on that. I just was scribbling," in the back of their mind. But instead, say something like, "You worked hard on staying in the lines," or perhaps, "You worked hard on your science project and proving your theory correct. You really earned that A." However, remember, when you are praising success and being specific, avoid the reverse. Don't say things like, "If you worked harder, you would do better," okay? So that's important to be able to look at too. All right. The next thing is turn homework into creative games. Gifted children love a challenge. So by turning otherwise dull homework into a challenging game, you can get your child to do it. Some children like to race, or you can ask them to see how quickly they can get it done without mistakes. Checking their work lets them see you care about it. Another creative approach to homework is to link it to an interest. For example, a dull math worksheet can be the decoding assignment of an astronaut space mission to Mars. Unless the work is done correctly, the mission will fail. Even the smallest mistake can create a problem that can cause the mission to fail. Now, can you see in a little third grade boy's mind how amazing that homework assignment is now? How many of you guys do this? What games have you guys tried? Go ahead and share that in the chat box. Have any of you tried that and turning your homework into a creative idea and making it more fun? Type that into the chat box. Those of you that are parents of older students, maybe middle school or high school students, how would you apply this in your setting? Oh, yeah, Mary, yes, I'm going to be sharing that here too in just a second. Pretend trampoline, clockwork jumped around a different, excellent. I need to find ways to make the schoolwork fun for my first grader. He gets bored easily. Excellent. Well, as we continue with this session, this is just the beginning. I'm hoping that it will not be boring anymore if you apply all these practices. Okay, all right, so I love that. Turning your math equations into a board game, cards. Excellent. Okay, so for older kids, Curry says older kids love competition. We make it like Jeopardy. Excellent. Okay. One of the suggestions I have working with middle school or high school students is try to apply it to real-world events or problems that they actually care about and help them make that connection. So why they're doing this math assignment, how does this affect them in the real world? It might take a little bit of research on your part to help them understand that, but boy, once they get that real-world connection, then it really helps them to conform and be able to get the things done that they need to do. Okay, the next thing I'm going to talk about is time management. When you guys start school, gifted children usually have few problems keeping up with work. They learn quickly and they usually learn very easily. Students that are gifted can usually master a concept within 1 to 2 repetitions, whereas a general ed student can take 7 to 9 repetitions before mastery is met. So while that may sound like a real advantage, it can also lead to problems. These children may never learn to manage their time in order to get work done. At some point, whether it's in high school or whether it's in college, they may feel overwhelmed by work they need to complete and don't know how to set aside time to complete tasks. So it's important to teach your child how to create and use a time management schedule. Now, this is just an example of a younger student of a time management. But I have a file transfer here that I'd like to share with you guys for older students as well. And it's got a combination of younger and older applications for you. And this file transfer, let me pull this up. It's called Time Management for Gifted Kids. It's quite extensive. It goes down and it has different graphic organizers like the one you see here on your and where to be able to go on the internet to download them. And there's like a pizza pie you can do for younger kids and graphically organize how much time they spend in their day for the amount of time we spend on homework or the amount of time I'm going to let you spend on TV and, you know, going from there. That would be for a younger child. But for older students, there's a program called Trello along with a Pomodoro technique. Have any of you guys heard of that out there? Raise your hand or give me a green check if you've heard of either of those techniques. The Trello with Pomodoro technique. Okay? All right, something kind of new. It's something out on the internet that I heard through one of my coworkers, and it is quite interesting. And I go through how to be able to accomplish a large amount of tasks in a short amount of time. Being able to break it up into basically like 15 to 25-minute increments and really working hard on something and then giving yourself a break and then really working hard and then giving yourself a break. So I put that all for you already, Lisa, in the file transfer I just sent you. And it really goes into it and explains it in more detail for you for those older students, okay? And so yeah, it's got templates for younger students. Older students have examples of grids and lists that they can use instead of these graphic organizers. Plus it also gives time management ideas for gifted kids that I think will be a real great resource for you guys. Okay, We've talked about several motivational strategies that work for gifted and non-gifted children. However, what I'm going to talk about next is something that is specific towards a gifted child. There are 3 strategies that are absolutely necessary accommodations that have to be made for a gifted child. I like to refer gifted ed to the flip side of special ed. It would be unheard of to have a special ed student integrated into a traditional classroom without having special learning accommodations being made for that child, right? Yeah, well, it should be just as unheard of to have a gifted student integrated into a traditional classroom without any special learning accommodations being made as well. It is said that a gifted student may walk into a traditional classroom already knowing as much as 80% of what will be taught that year. Because of this, we have to provide acceleration, compacting, and enrichment. This is what makes a gifted child tick, and this is what helps them to grow. Okay, so we're going to talk about this acceleration. I'm going to give you your polling tools, and I want you to tell me which one is it, A, B, or C. Let me get those up. All right, over here on the left-hand side, is it quickly going through a lesson, quickly going through a grade level, or quickly speaking while teaching gifted kids? Okay, Maria, yeah. And that's why we naturally attract a lot of gifted students in our school because those kids are not being met, their needs aren't being met in the traditional classroom. Excellent. Okay. All right, so let me go ahead and tell you what your guys' results are, and you can see if you were correct or not. All right, the answer is that you need to quickly go through a grade level. Now, it's really technically acceleration is quickly going through content, but for my presentation today and the way that I like, Carly Thompson likes to explain acceleration, is that I like to explain it as you are quickly going through an entire grade level with the online school. Okay, this is applicable to us at K-12, okay? Now, I want you to think about on that broader concept here. Acceleration should be moving quickly through a grade level or a course until the point of new understanding. That's the key right there. Once you reach a point of new understanding, we do something called compacting, which I'll talk about more in a minute. But remember to use this acceleration with caution, but when it is necessary, okay? So I'm going to show you here a little example of how to use this acceleration on the online school. So if you have over here your progress, and for instance, you may have a kindergartner coming into school already reading on a first grade level. Because of this, the kindergarten phonics course will probably be quite boring for the student since they're reading on a first or a second grade level. In this case, I would encourage a parent to accelerate quickly through the kindergarten language curriculum by doing unit assessments and even perhaps semester assessments only, so we can quickly get to the next grade level and finally have the student working on information that is new to them. It doesn't mean that they won't still pick it up quickly. Remember, I said that gifted kids will master a concept usually within 1 to 2 repetitions, okay? So they're still going to pick it up quickly, but once you reach that point of new information, that's what's important. All right? However, it means that they have not been exposed to this information before. If you have a student that finally they come to a point that they have not been exposed to that information before, and that's where you're going to pick up and continue to do the compacting. All right, so to find unit assessments and semester assessments, you would go to the online school and click on your progress tab, and then you would go to the course that you're looking for and click on the blue hyperlink itself. So I'm going to say, for instance, the literature and comprehension. From there, you would go ahead and click on the unit list link right here, and then it would populate all the units down all the way down. And you could see where your unit assessments are quickly, or you could also see where your first and second semester assessments are. Now, if you do something like this, it's important to know that you would also want to talk to your teacher, your homeroom teacher, and make sure that they're aware of what's going on. And as long as the student is mastering those assessments, then I think it's fair to say you can go ahead and move on. I tell my parents if the student masters it with 90% or better, you know that they know the information. Sometimes gifted kids surprise you, and you have no idea that they know that information, and you're like, wow. And so that's why it's important to be able to do this and to be able to get them to a point that they are starting to learn new information, okay? So that is where you would do that at, is being able to find your unit semester assessments, and then you can mark those lessons either complete, or if you actually, I pulled one too many here. You'd mark those lessons complete on the online school as you finish each unit or semester assessment. You won't see the progress bar move across, but your teacher will see that unit assessment is mastered, and that will satisfy the requirements for the promotion. If you have a child that wants to see the progress bar fill in, then you'll need to mark each lesson complete instead of just doing each unit complete. Or you can contact your teacher to help you mark those off as well. They have a cool little button that they can mark off a whole unit at one time with one click. Now that's only if we're going quickly through the curriculum. If a child, remember, if they don't master 90% or better, then I know that I need to slow down and go back and reteach. And I finally found the point of new understanding, and that's wonderful. All right, so now I do have a little warning here because I do work with elementary ed students. I'm K-8 certified, but I'm K-12 certified in gifted ed. And one of the things I have noticed with the elementary kiddos that are kindergarten kids, a lot of times gifted kids will teach themselves almost to read. Not all of them, okay, but a lot of times they pick it up so quickly it's almost as if they do teach themselves to read. And so part of the reason for that is that they read whole language versus phonics. Whole language is kind of memorizing a whole word and seeing it like a sight word and memorizing it almost like a picture. And that whole language is something that is great, and they pick up quickly, and you find that they're reading quickly, but because of that, a lot of times they will miss out on those phonics, necessary phonics rules that will create them to be really poor spellers and would inhibit them as they get into older math and science. And so because of that, I do give a caution out there to those younger kindergarten, first grade kids that are quickly accelerating through that phonics curriculum, to just tell those parents to, let them know that it is something cautionary. And I haven't found one parent that has tried to do more for their kid and get through it without that student. In other words, the parent wants the best for the kid. I trust those parents completely, that they are really trying to make sure that that kid knows that stuff and isn't going to fudge that to me, okay? And so I think it's really important to be able to share that with one another, with your homeroom teacher and the parent, to be able to know where that student is. And then for that parent to also understand that the phonics is an important key skill that builds upon future spelling and future decoding of language as they get into harder words. And so sometimes every now and then again I'll get a little fourth grader that for some reason, or they just aren't picking up really well when they start getting into this harder vocabulary, and that's where if I were to do a phonics test with them, they score low in that phonics, and it's because they pretty much memorize the words instead of skipping over some of that phonics. And so that's a caution. Just remember that. You can move through it quickly, but keep that in the back of your mind. It doesn't mean that you can't quickly get through that phonics. I'm just saying keep that in the back of your mind. Okay, I'm not going to continue forth with that. Okay, so, yeah, hey Heather, yes, some children are gifted in one area and not all. There's different areas of giftedness, so excellent. Christy, that may be the reason why spelling is a torture for them. A lot of gifted kids are poor spellers. Isn't that terrible? And it's because of what I just explained. And it's not like you can't fix it. You can help them, but maybe doing a little bit of core phonics with them might be a great review. So, okay. All right, let's move on here to compacting. Go ahead and take your pen tools. I'll clear out your responses and choose whether compacting is repeating necessary information, or is it omitting repetitive information, or is it having the student take notes? Which one is the answer? If you guys put B, you are correct. Yes, excellent. Okay, so that is right. It is omitting repetitive information. So, all right, if we were going to compact, this is the next step that's so important in that motivation and in helping your students through the online school. I want you to think of it as I want you to think of it as a trash compactor. Remember those? I don't know if they don't have them as much anymore. At least I don't see them a lot. When I was growing up, my mom had a trash compactor that smashed all the garbage down to the bottom, right? And it made it really heavy to ever change the trash bag. I hated it. Anyway, but for this lesson, what we're talking about is smashing out the fluff. Compacting lessons is when you smash out all the extra repetitions and all the extra activities, the unnecessary information that is not necessary for your student because they already know it. All right, so what I would encourage you to do is pull up, when you are in online school, pull up your objectives first. That is the biggest thing. Every one of your lessons have the objectives right there. Pull them up. See what they really want the kid to know in that unit, all right, or in that lesson, all right? And then take your learning coach guide or your parent guide. I would print it off and then take a highlighter and highlight through what is the most difficult first. What's the most important? Decide what can be skipped or eliminated. All right, those are all different things. I want you to ask those questions to yourself. What do students already know or are able to do? If you're not sure, maybe give them a pre-assessment. Have you ever thought about giving them the actual lesson assessment first? The end of the lesson, that assessment, give it to them first as a pre-assessment. What they miss is what then you need to teach the lesson on. That's an excellent accommodation for a gifted student. Pre-assessing before you actually give them the lesson, and then have them take the assessment again at the end, and that's how you are able to know that they mastered the content. Highlight on your teacher's guide, what will they grasp easily? What can be accomplished quickly? Most parents do not do each and every activity in a lesson. Just because it's on the online school does not mean you have to do it. And that's one of the biggest one of the myths out there that I think that parents don't realize is that just because it's there, you don't have to do it. And in fact, as a parent of a gifted student, it's absolutely necessary that you don't do every single thing. Otherwise, you are going to have that child be bored to death. They're starting to act out, and they're going to hate school. And so that's why this information, like I said before, it's not cheating. Compacting is an actual accommodation that is just as necessary of an accommodation you would make for a special ed student as what you do for a gifted student. Keep that in mind, and keep that in the back of your mind so you don't feel like you are cheating, because you're not. Okay, how do we make up our required time for the week if we skip? Excellent point. I'm going to talk to you about that in just a second. And class connects seem to be repetitive to online lessons. Okay, all right, and maybe that's something that you can share with your teacher, and that you can share that so that you can hopefully be able to, they can adjust their curriculum a little bit. You skipped 2. Excellent. Tammy says, my students finish the work too quickly. He doesn't want to go to the next lesson. Even though he has permission, he would rather just be done with school and move on his own plans of the day. I'm sure it is not in his best interest. Okay, excellent. I'm so glad you guys have all these questions, because you are leading me to more of our presentation today and what the next steps are. So hold on. All right, so this is just an example, a little bit more talking here about that pre-assessment. This is an example on the online school. The pre-assessment also can be your show you know from the previous chapter. You can use this for your pre-assessment to that previous chapter to see what you need to cover before you get the lesson. So sorry, I didn't really make that clear. Go, let's say you're in unit or in lesson 12. Go to lesson 13, go to the show you know, and let that be maybe your pre-assessment, and see if your student is able to answer that information. If they're not, then that is also another great idea to be able to have as a pre-assessment, then teach the lesson, and then give the final assessment afterwards, okay? If they master this, then they probably have already mastered the lesson. And so that's where I would go ahead and continue to assess out. In history, it will often ask you to have the student answer the following review questions in the history journal. This could also be skipped and not necessary. Okay, let me show you on this page now. This is an example of like an actual lesson, you can click on the objectives first, and you can go and remember the quick review could be the pre-assessment for the previous lesson, or if you're on that lesson currently and you didn't do that, you could skip the quick review because you're doing it from the next lesson, okay? I hope that makes sense. And then this can also be your pre-assessment, the show your know, or the quick review from the next lesson could be your pre-assessment. History record book, what I had said, can this be skipped? Anything that's optional, skip those. Okay, so my whole point behind being able to smash out the fluff and teaching the necessary things that are the objectives and what the student in that state needs to know at that age-appropriate grade level, you are making sure that they understand that content. Okay, now yes, this does provide some extra time in your day. In the state of Idaho, a 5th grade student has to have 5 hours of attendance. And they may finish their online school daily plan in 4 hours or even 3 hours because they smashed out the fluff. So what do I do now? All right, that is where this brings me to the final part of making accommodations for your gifted kids. What is enrichment? Okay, you can't just skip those educational hours. You have to have that for your state, okay, as part of your schooling and working with a public school. But the thing is that makes gifted kids tick now is this enrichment piece. So is enrichment drilling deeper into areas of strength? Is it music time at the end of your day or taking unit assessments? Good, most of you have chosen, and let's publish those results to the whiteboard. Okay. All right, most of you have chosen the correct one. And yes, drilling deeper into areas of strength. Like I said, this is what is so important, that final piece that a lot of times gets left out, that is absolutely necessary. Drilling deeper into an area your student is passionate about or that they are strong in. They finished what an age-appropriate, let's say 8th grader in your state requires, and now they're able to drill deeper into an area of interest. Maybe it's doing more math, going deeper into the subject to a harder level. Or maybe it's drilling deeper into language arts. They could write a book, differentiate it. Maybe you could design a video game, or they could write a business plan, or maybe they could learn about their hero. This is the time that you let them decide an area of passion and let them use those time. So they have finished school, maybe the online school, in the 4 hours that it took them to finish the daily plan, and they have an extra hour in their day to finish that 5 hours, okay? So check on your state's requirements, but that's our state with requirement, okay? And so then I would go ahead and let that extra hour be in an area that they love. Maybe it's marine biology. Maybe my student loves marine biology and she wants to be a sponge and soak up everything she can. Maybe it's checking out a book on marine biology, reading more about it. Maybe it's an actual science project that she wants to investigate more closely. Let them drive deeper into that area of strength. If your student is a really, really strong in math, yeah, let them go ahead and go on with harder math skills or then start to apply it to real-world application. Let them take it deeper. There are so many opportunities out there on the internet to help you provide them with these opportunities. Contact your gifted and talented teachers also in your school or your homeroom teachers to help you know how to continue to further them. That's what we're here for. Maybe through enrichment, your student will end up changing the world. That is what's huge about this, okay? Did you know that kids need time to work on those things they are most passionate and excited about? It helps to alleviate boredom, frustration, underachievement, and it can even alleviate depression. Did you know that studies show that if you don't nurture a kid's giftedness, they can actually lose potential? Did you know that? That is huge. I did not know that until I started into my gifted ed classes. And that to me was devastating, that if we don't nourish a gifted student's giftedness, they can lose that potential. So in the direct messaging area, please share what your student is most excited about. Is there something that your student is most excited about? Science, veterinary medicine, cooking, art, math. Excellent. These are your science projects, or these are your passion projects, you guys. This is what you can do with your kids. And that's what leads me to my last area. Let your student be your guide. Kids who can explore their interests are more likely to keep their love of learning alive. It can be, you can take a passion project and make it a day, or maybe make it a week, or it can even be a year to complete their passion project. When finished, start a new one. When you're done with it, start a new one. Always have an enrichment project to continue working on. Help your child make connections between schoolwork and their interests. Sometimes children lack motivation because they don't see a connection between the work they're being asked to do and their goals and interests. A child who wants to be an astronaut should know that math and science is important to them. A little research may be necessary to find requirements for various jobs, but then let that be their passion project. Now, here's just a couple of ideas for passion projects. You don't have to make it as elaborate as this. Some parents really like something written out. You can do it like this and have it really organized. Or it can be something a lot less formal on your end. Here's an example of what a student turned in for a passion project one time with me, and it's what they wrote out about and did a self-portrait of themselves and continued to talk about the things that they like to learn. Here's another example. This student wanted to create a water treatment plant. So another idea of what you can do for a passion project. Now, in saying all of this, you have an amazing opportunity here. Teach your students to work, teach them to dream, teach them that they can become anything it is they want to be. And in doing that, by you being able to make accommodations with the online school, accelerating, compacting, and enriching, you are going to see your children come alive, and they are going to love, love, love school. You have an amazing opportunity to have a huge impact on your child and to help shape their futures. Teach them to work. Teach them all of these things. Teach them to set goals. All right, I have a little video to share with you, but before I do that, I'm going to share with you some 21 strategies to motivate your gifted kid. And this is another little file transfer that I'll share with you that is just a good informational thing to share out, okay? And then I'll share with you this little video that I think goes along pretty great. Well, actually, I'm going to share the video after this. I want to know what your guys' your panic zone is. How was the session today? I want to know your comfort level on implementing acceleration, compacting, enrichment. Take your pen tools. Let me give you those. All right? Take your pen tools and hover your mouse or your pointer tool over the area that you feel that you're at. Are you in the comfort zone? The comfort zone means I can handle this, no problem. Yeah, I'm going to start really compacting or accelerating, compacting, enriching. All right? The learning zone, that's your out of my comfort zone, but yes, I can do this. Now, if you're in the panic zone and can barely keep up, if you're feeling like that and you're saying, no, I'm not going to be doing this, I want you to please email either myself, Heather McKenna. After our session, we'll have our contact information for you. Or definitely email your homeroom teacher that you're working with. Tell them of your concerns if you're in the panic zone, okay? Because this is all stuff that you should be able to implement and that is research-based, that what is best for gifted ed and for your gifted students. Okay, so let me share this video with you real quickly, and then we will finish up with any questions that you guys might have. All right, hold on just 1 minute. Okay. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and finish off that video. I thought that was pretty cute. And that pep talk that we all have there at the end, because especially if you felt that you were in that panic zone at all, in your learning zone or your panic zone, that you guys can do this. So I just want to ask you if you have any questions. Heather and I would be happy to stay on to answer those at this time. Otherwise, our session is over. But there is some wonderful resources here for you. We have all of our parent recording, all of our trainings from our National ALP Parent Recordings are located here, and that's where I will also be uploading today's session. So if you guys want to check that out, there are some really great resources there on a lot of other topics that are specific towards gifted ed. Our Facebook page, like our Facebook page, because that is another thing that somebody had mentioned they wanted to be able to get in touch touch with other parents to see what they're doing. I'll put all this information into the chat box for you here really quickly, and then that way you can copy that or paste it or click on those links as well. And oh wait, sorry. I think I accidentally clicked myself out. Okay. Anyway, these are great places to be able to collaborate and start to meet other people that are in the same situation as you. Also, our email address is here. If there's something we didn't address today, be happy. Feel free to bring that up as a question right now or email us directly, and we're happy to help you to be able to think beyond what was presented today. This is a basic Gifted Ed 101 kind of a lesson today, teaching how to basically differentiate to make sure that you are accommodating those needs of gifted kids. If you need further enrichment for your students, we'd be happy to talk with you about that too. So thanks everyone for coming. We sure appreciate you, and keep up the great work out there. You guys are doing amazing things. All right, I'll go ahead and stop the recording and then we'll answer questions.